My name is Jill. I am 26 years old and I am a sexologist. I love being a sexologist. You're not going to find another person who loves their job more than me because I get to talk about sex all day. I am on a mission to teach the world that sex should be fun and pleasure is good for you. I teach sexuality at colleges and universities on topics like the politics of female sexuality and body image. I also teach sex education and empowerment informally in people's living rooms. I have a retail store called Feminique where people can come in and purchase vibrators and lubricants and massage oils and lingerie in a classy, upscale, and sex-positive environment. I write a sex column for a local paper. I write my own blog online, and I just published my first book called Fighting the Crusade Against Sex. I have a bachelor's degree in sexuality and a master's degree in sexuality, and I am wrapping up my doctorate in sexuality. And when I'm done, I'll be the only person in the world with all 3 degrees in sex. But it's not all rainbows and orgasms. We still live in a world where people think we shouldn't be talking about sex, and I have to deal with these people on a daily basis. In the end, I love my job, and it's all just a part of the day in the life of a sexologist. I've been known to be a passionate person, and I've never shied away from literally taking to the streets to tell the government what exactly I think of them. So I've been to a few protests and counter-inaugurals. When I was reading all the stories in the news about the transvaginal ultrasounds and Rush Limbaugh calling that woman a slut for wanting to be on birth control and have it be covered under her medical insurance, I said, we need to take to the streets about this bullshit, and there has to be a protest. Why aren't people angrier than they are? And I need to, if there's not a protest happening, then I'm going to start one myself. I spent a whole afternoon looking online and found out that there was this rally happening, and I decided I had to go to Harrisburg to be a part of it. It was important to me for this protest to have a sign that was very serious. In my past protests, you try and come up with little clever and cute sayings that are witty, and I wasn't going witty with this protest. I was going, this is a really serious problem, and I'm going to have a really serious sign to address it, and I'm going to keep trying to address whether it's the streets or writing letters or just Facebooking and blogging and getting the word out that what's happening in Washington, D.C. and Harrisburg and every state capital in this country against women is a huge affront, and I'm not going to stop. Leading up to the protest, I had been campaigning all over Facebook and in Feminique saying, let's go together, let's get a carpool going, come with me to this protest, I'll cook you breakfast the morning of. Not a single person took me up on my offer, and I was really heavy-hearted on the drive to Harrisburg with just me and my boyfriend, because I thought, why don't people care about this? Why aren't people angry enough about this to come protest? But when I pulled up to the Capitol building, I saw there was about 350 people, and I felt better that at least 350 people are angry. It was a nice-sized protest. There was singing, there was chanting, there was a whole list of really great speakers, including a senator from Pennsylvania who was very outspoken, and he was a great presenter. Actually, I was moved to tears by his presentation.
There have been repeated efforts to do things that degrade women, and let me give you some examples. Among the things they have done, they've attempted to redefine rape to not include women who are coerced, drugged, or threatened in the definition. They have attempted to require women to explain to their bosses why it is exactly they want contraceptives and if they want them covered by their health insurance plan. They've moved legislation that allows hospitals to refuse to provide abortions to women, even if the abortion is necessary to save the life of the woman. They've moved legislation and constitutional amendments which would redefine personhood in such a way as to not only prohibit all abortions, but prohibit most forms of birth control, stem cell research, and in vitro fertilization. They've required women who need abortion services to get forced medical procedures, such as ultrasounds, even if the woman and her doctor both object.
When he was mentioning about the transvaginal ultrasounds, I was mad. When he was talking about having to ask your boss if it's okay to be on birth control, I was mad. But when he said...
Just this week, 31 United States senators voted against reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act.
We can't get 31 men to agree that beating women is bad. I lost it. And I just am so angry, but also really, really just sad. In my protests, it's usually a lot of younger folks. What really struck me about the protests here was that it was a lot of older women carrying signs that said something to the effect of, haven't we fought this fight already? Or I can't believe we're talking about this shit again. Or I fought this battle 40 years ago. Older women who are out here again fighting for women's rights after we supposedly won this battle in the 60s and 70s. And it just makes me really upset to think that we're sliding back to that era.
The religious far right has already introduced legislation in nearly every state in the U.S. that puts extra hurdles before women who are seeking abortions, and it will go on and on. Make no mistake about it. If there is one thing we must understand about these zealots, it is that they will accomplish what they want in whatever way they think will work. If picketing abortion clinics didn't work, well, let's shoot the doctors and the healthcare workers. If making abortion illegal won't work, well, let's make women watch films of fetuses, or listen to fetal sounds, or endure intravaginal examinations. These are all battles in the war against women, and make no mistake about it, this is not about religion or religious freedom. This is all about controlling women, keeping them in their place, and at the same time making sure that the good old boys keep their power and make their money. Woo! That is hard.
The response to the protest was unfortunately not much. One news van came at the very end, and while we all at the protest agree, it's kind of preaching to the choir, not much dialogue coming out from there, not a lot of news articles written, not a lot of conversations coming on from there. Just demonstrates how much work there is to be done. I need to change my sign. For one, the business is no longer called Feminique Boutique, it's just Feminique. And for about 3 years I've been using this really adorable logo that's been on my website and business cards, etc. And I just want to create some continuity with how the outside of the building looks with how people know and recognize my business. Currently it's a very simple sign in pink and brown with plain font that says Feminique Boutique. I didn't pick the sign. When I opened my business 4 years ago, I didn't have a logo idea, and so the printer just put that on the sign. Now that I've developed a logo and have been using it and marketing it for 3 years, it's time for a change. I'm Jill. I have an appointment with
Hi, Jill.
Shannon.
Okay, just a moment. Shannon, Jill's here.
Thanks for meeting with me.
problem.
I appreciate it.
Here's my card.
Oh, thank you.
We can go on in the conference room and talk about what you're looking for.
Thanks. Two things have mainly changed. One, we've dropped the boutique in the Feminique Boutique, and I've just been going by Feminique for about 2 years now.
Okay.
So I've outgrown the sign in that way. And secondly, I have a logo.
Okay.
Here she is.
Oh, okay.
So this has been branded on our website, on my business cards.
Okay.
I have it, on paper on the glass door.
Okay.
So it's something that people do recognize,
Okay.
and I'd really like to have it officially on the sign. So we talked about how you can design anything you want to put on a sign, but you do have to get it approved by multiple committees in the government of Westchester who have a bit of a reputation for being, shall we say, difficult to deal with. The first meeting was with the Historical Review Committee, whose job is to make sure Historical Westchester stays historical looking. We spent the first 20 minutes of that meeting listening to an argument about the color of a guy's door hinges. Then it was my turn to present to the committee my sign proposal. First person in the committee, happened to be the only woman on the committee, said she was fine with it. Then went to the first man, and he says, I find this sign inappropriate. And I go, here we go. Why is the sign inappropriate? The argument was that when I opened, I agreed that I would not depict human genitals, the pubic region, breasts, buttocks, or anuses. And they said that the sign does not go along with such agreement. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't see an anus or breast anywhere on this logo. And the one gentleman said, well, I see pubic hair.
I see pubic hair.
And I just kind of laughed and said, you see pubic hair? I don't know what kind of pubic hair you're looking at, but that is not what pubic hair looks like. Maybe you should all take one of my classes. Well, behind me, the entire audience was in an uproar of laughter. The committee, less so, and they kind of just laughed awkwardly. Another man on the committee asked if this was 1890 and this sign was proposed, is there anybody who would think that it's appropriate? To which my boyfriend Ryan yelled out from the audience,
2012.
It's interesting to think about how if it was 1890, I wouldn't have been able to own this business. As a woman, I wouldn't have been able to vote. Not everything that's historical is good. There's nothing more historical than sex. Sex isn't happening. Ultimately, they voted 3-4 against allowing my logo to be on the sign. Next meeting I have to go to is the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting.